Hey guys, it's Miss Cable, and I'm going to go over the requirements today for the tool equipment evaluation report and research assignment, and kind of show you a little bit of how the setup needs to look using a report from last semester. So, this is where you're going to turn it in. Obviously, it's due on Monday, April the 6th, 2020. This says 11:55 a.m. I guess I just didn't change the time, but it is still due Monday. That's next Monday, April the 6th. One thing that you need to make sure that you have turned in by Thursday of this week, hopefully it's not Thursday when you're watching this, is an outline showing kind of everything that you're going to include just to kind of get make sure that you're planning before you type. So I'm going to switch over to the guidelines first of all. You're going to be researching a tool or a piece of equipment. We have been talking about this paper now since beginning of March. So hopefully you know what you're researching. Um, you have that ready to go. So you're going to be basically researching a tool or a piece of equipment and providing this information to a person who needs to hear it, whether that's somebody in your organization of work or somebody outside of your organization. If it's an internal report, you're going to include a cover memo, so outlining what is going on within your paper. If it is outside the company, you're going to use a cover letter. We did memos and letters in like the third unit. So if you need a refresher on what goes in a memo and a letter, make sure you go back and read those chapters or watch the video. So here's what needs to go in it, and it's a lot, which is why we've been working on this. So hopefully you're just needing to type it up. You've got to have your cover letter and cover memo. You need to have your title page. You need a table of contents and a list of figures and tables. Now, when you look at the example, when you look at the example, you are the report format. I have these in a different order. Hopefully, you're watching the video so you get this. The table of contents and the list of figures and tables need to be on the same page. Just kind of keep that in mind. You need to have an executive summary or abstract, which I'll go over in a minute. You need to have an introduction when you get into your paper, which is the purpose and the scope of the report. Within the body of the report, you should provide a well thought out and thorough description of the tool or piece of equipment being evaluated. You need to have several different sections within that. And I'm going to show you, the paper I'm going to show you did not get a 100. And I'm going to show you why when we get into the body of this paper. But similar to your instructions report, how each of your areas in your instruction report that we did last unit, you had different subsections of instructions. You need to have subsections of information in the report. So when you get to the body, you need to give a basic, some really good ideas for sections within the body of the report is basic information about the tool. This is just a basic breakdown of the tool itself. Another section can be assembly, if there's assembly required. You could also have something like skill of worker needed to use, or you can have different parts or pieces of the equipment, what's going to come in the box, what's good about it, reviews and how it's reviewed in the world of tool review. You absolutely must have a feasibility section and where you include the cost. So one of your sections in the body must be a feasibility section where you discuss the cost and whether or not the cost is worth the tool itself. But there are several different ways you can go with it, but you need to break the body of your report down into subsections. And that way, those subsections will show up in your table of contents. So, conclusions, and you need to have a conclusion and recommendation. This is where you're going to wrap everything up and say whether or not you recommend the tool and why. An appendix if needed. You shouldn't need the appendix, and I'll tell you why in a second. You need to have a works cited. If you remember, your works cited page was due to me last week. So all you need to do is copy and paste your works cited page from last week into the last page of your document here. Lastly, you need graphics and illustrations. You must have at least 3 graphics illustrations. And those graphics and illustrations need to be integrated within your paper, not stuck at the end. So if we're talking about the different pieces of equipment that goes with this one piece of equipment, I'm thinking, gosh, tools and me, you should know by now, don't get along. But my husband's a kind of a tool guy. So he just bought a pressure washer for our house. Okay. The pressure washer comes with the pressure washer itself. It comes with several different hoses that have several different purposes. And it comes with several different nozzles that have different purposes. So when I go into the pieces of the equipment and I break that down, I'm going to break down the nozzles and the hoses and the compartment and all of that stuff individually and explain their purposes. And when I do that, I'm going to provide images. The images do not have to be centered in your paper. They can be off to the side. It does look better if it's centered, and I will show you how to do that. But I did have a couple students that last week, or the last report with your instruction report where you had to have graphics, you did not include those because you couldn't get them to center properly. That's not an excuse. There are plenty of YouTube videos that you can look to figure that out, or watch the video where I show you how to do it. So please make sure that you have that in properly. The best thing you can also do is send me an email. I can help you if I know to help you. So anyways, as always, you should have a type 12-point Times New Roman font paper with page numbers at the top on the right-hand side. Because this is a technical report, it is going to be single spacing with a space between the paragraphs and sections. I am not requiring a specific number of pages for your project because some people may have a longer paper than others depending on how much you put into it. As long as you have all the pieces, that's all that matters to me. So let's go over this. So you have to have a cover letter or a cover memo that's in ABC format. Remember, abstract or introduction, body, conclusion. It's going to explain what's going to be covered in the paper. The first paragraph cites the name of the report. It mentions the date of the agreement to write the report. The middle paragraph focuses on the purpose. The final paragraph encourages to get in touch with any questions. Then you need a cover page that states the title, your name, the instructor's name, the course title, the section number, and the due date. Be creative and include color and graphics, guys. Your first image, the picture of your tool, should show up on your cover page. So we do want to make sure that we're focusing there on that. Okay, I had to fix something. Sorry, that's mine. You saw some weirdness. The next thing you need is a table of contents that's going to outline your report. You must have on your table of contents the executive summary or abstract, introduction, headings with specific titles, subheadings under those headings with specific titles, conclusion, recommendations, and works cited. So I want to show you guys how to do that. All right, an executive summary is basically a very short 1-paragraph summary of the paper itself. It's going to start with executive summary bolded in all caps, centered, followed by a blank space. It's going to give me the brief background of the project, the major findings of the project, and it's going to emphasize major conclusions for the final paragraph. So you're going to think, basically, you're summarizing your entire paper in 1 paragraph. Sometimes it is easier to write your abstract last. So you want to leave room for it in your paper, but once you finish everything, go back and do the abstract at the end. All right, you need a well-introduced introduction that talks about the purpose of the project, the scope or how long it's going to take, the format, project description. It's going to give me the subject and background of the report. The next section is going to give me the purpose of the report and the overview of the introduction. It's going to include my purpose statement, which is the main idea of the report itself. The final paragraph of the introduction includes the main parts of the report, essentially describing what you're going to be discussing. Then you're going to have a body section, and this is where we were talking about how you need to have separate subheadings within the body of the paper. So you're going to introduce your ideas with a bold-faced heading that's centered at the top of the page, and then include bolded subheadings and necessary tables and graphs. So this may be if you have your spray booth or your pressure washer is the highest recommended one on Lowe's website. Find me a graphic that shows that. If you're mentioning that your piece of equipment lasts longer than anything else on the market or most cost effective, show me tables that support that information, graphs that support that information. Give me images that show the different parts. Give me an image that shows it broken down or put together, blueprints. These things need to be in there. Remember, a total of 3 graphics within the paper. That does not count the graphic that is on your cover page. So 3 graphics on top of, so technically you need 4. You need a conclusion or recommendations section. It's going to give us closure. It's going to tell us whether or not you recommend the spray booth or whatever you're using. It's going to tell us why you recommend it in a couple sentences. Wrap it up. Then you need a works cited page. We've talked about that and how to do those. So hopefully all you have to do is copy and paste it in. You're going to be doing this in MLA style formatting. If you have questions on those types of formatting, make sure that you're looking at the writing expectations video. It's going to go over that for you. We're using 3 to 4 reputable sources throughout your report. You may use more than 4 if you need to. Do not use Wikipedia. Your secret word for this particular paper is no Wikipedia. No Wikipedia. So make sure you're writing that down. So this goes over what I just talked about. So let's look at an example. So this student, we're calling him Joe Student, has a paper. His paper, he has his memo here. He's got his address, the person's address that he's sending it to, all of his introductory information that goes in the memo, respectfully yours, Joe Student. Next page is his title page. He's talking about spray booths. He gives me an example of spray booth. Now, whenever you're ready, you're going to copy and paste that in. Now, some of you were complaining that it didn't center right, and it's probably because you didn't have it centered. I can make this smaller by weaseling it in this way if I want to, and that looks good. I go up here to the Center Justify button and pop it in the middle. There's student's name, my name, the course, and the date due. It always looks like this, 6 April 2020. And then he gives me a brief recommendation. This report examines spray booths and how they work and useful they are. So he has his table of contents here. With our table of contents, we need to make sure that we're going and putting those in appropriately, that you are not just typing everything out. So we're going to go up to references. We're going to go over here to the left-hand side where it says table of contents. Pick the one you like the best. I like this one. And hit OK. Now, if you notice, it says no table of contents entries found. And I'm going to explain why. Let's move on and go ahead and hit enter a couple times. You're also going to want to have a table of figures. Hit this. It's going to look like this. Hit OK. Obviously, there's no table of figure entries found. We are going to do that in a minute. So let's go down and we have its abstract. This is one of the things that have to be on your table of contents. But if you notice, the abstract here doesn't show up because it ain't there. So we need to make sure it shows up. So we're going to highlight it and we're going to go to paragraph. And do you see where it says outline level and it says body of text? This needs to say level 1. Level 1 is going to put it in our table of contents. So hit OK. Now if we go up, we hit update table. There's our abstract. Pretty. Our abstract, if we look at it here, is just a brief introduction to everything that he needs. The only thing he does not have in his abstract, if we're looking at this, is the conclusion. He's got a great body going on here, but no introduction or conclusion. So you want to make sure in your abstract that you're introducing, we're talking about spray booths and why we're talking about spray booths, and then this is recommended because. Okay. So, report on spray booths, introduction. So, you can take this out where you don't need to have report on spray booths, introduction, but we do need to have introduction. This is not showing up on my table of contents. So I am going to right click, go to paragraph, and make this level 1. Go back to contents, update table, update entire table. Okay. So we've got our introduction here, and our introduction is good. We're talking about the purpose of the project. Now we are going to have spray booths. Let's call it spray booth information. Okay. So spray booth information is once again something that we need to have. We're going to make this a major heading by highlighting, going to paragraph, making this level 1, and hit OK. Now, description of major parts, that needs to be on our table of contents too, because it's a header. When we do our subheadings, you still want your subheadings to be bolded, but you don't want your subheadings to be in all caps. Our major headings are in all caps. Our subheadings are just bolded. So we're going to hit and go to paragraph. Our subheadings are going to be level 2. And then we're going to hit OK. So let's go back up and just take a look at how that looks on my table of contents. We're going to hit update table, update entire table, and hit OK. And now look at that. We have a subheading and a major heading. Now, one thing that he is missing here, he gives me the description of the major parts, but he has no image. But he did put his image here. I'm going to cut that and show you what it should look like. So let's just cut this and put his image. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to center it. Hit V. Hit something right. Hold on a minute. Hit V. Let's put it in the middle so it looks nice. Let's make it a little smaller. It doesn't need to be huge. So I've got this description of major parts. This figure needs a caption. So we're going to hit it. We're going to go to insert caption when we hit the right click button there. And then we're going to call this figure 1 spray booth breakdown. Why not? And hit OK. Now, I have a figure. I'm going to try to insert that table of figures again. So just delete it. Go to References, Table of Figures, and OK. And there's my table of figures there. When it's in the table of contents like this, it just looks nice. I don't like that word content up there. I'm going to take it out. I can do that because I know how. All right, so let's keep going. This student got a 93. Some reasons he did not do as well as I would have liked is because he did not integrate his pictures within his paper. He also did not give me more detail. So another thing that he could have included, in his paper, he broke down the major parts. So another, he could have put, so he could have had a topic reviews of spray booth. This brand of spray booth is highly recommended from blah, 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 whatever website that he found it on. I'm going to pause and put in an image. Give me just a second. Okay, so I found some stuff for this. I wanted to show you how it works. So instead of reviews, so pros and cons of spray booth. I found a really good figure that we could include that shows the pros and cons underneath this figure. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to add, when I add this in, I'm going to highlight this. I am going to go to paragraph. This is this is level 2. And then I'm going to go to here, right click, insert caption, figure 2, pros and cons. And then under here, I'm going to say, there are many pros and cons purchasing this type of booth, yada, yada, yada. The last thing that you need to make sure you always have, go back, make sure this stays in Times New Roman font, make sure this is bold. The last thing that you need in your paper is feasibility, and I can't spell today because it's really late. Feasibility of product. This is where you can include a picture of the cost. So I found a picture of the cost. We're going to check it out on Amazon. That's where it is. Use your snipping tool because it's the best. Obviously, he didn't use this particular type, but I'm kind of working on the fly here just to show you the different components. So it's good to include a snap of where you can buy the product for the cheapest, and then discuss, doesn't need to be in bold, discuss whether or not it's worth the cost. Remember that you're going to go in, you're going to make this level 2 by going paragraph. You can also do paragraph this way. Outline level 2. This right here, we need to add a caption. Figure 3, cost. Okay. Now we're going to go down here. Obviously, we can include this in here. Conclusions and recommendations is another big one. So we're going to go to paragraph. We're going to make this level 1. Works cited is also going to be level 1. Now, please make sure, another thing that he got dinged on point-wise is please make sure that this does not look like this. It does not have all of these colors, and it all needs to be Times New Roman 12-point font. You also need to do the hanging indent. Let me show you how to do that. If it does not have that hanging indent like it's supposed to, just highlight it, go to paragraph, indentation, special, hanging. And it will do that hanging indent for you. I'll show you one more time. You notice that this is also in alphabetical order. So you do want to make sure that you have yours in alphabetical order as well. If I go back up to my table of contents, I need to update that. Update table, update entire table. To my table of contents, hold on, there's an issue. This is okay, that looked weird. Let me see if that helped. Did it take that picture out? Okay. So we've got the spray. We have the spray with information, the 3 subheadings, conclusions and recommendations. We're excited. And then let me go here and update field, update entire table. We have our 3 figures here. So let's look at the paper one more time and make sure you guys understand everything that needs to be a part of it. You have your memo. You have your works cited page with your list of figures. This needs to be part of that list of figures too. So we need to insert caption. Figure 1, spray booth. That one, sorry guys. Table of contents and your list of figures. We need to update. All 4 figures. We have our abstract, which is our paragraph to 3 paragraph introduction where you cover your entire paper. We have our introduction. We have our body, which has at least 3 subheadings. One of them must be feasibility of product, and one of them must be description of the product itself. Then we have our conclusion and our works cited page. If you have all of this information, then you will have a very well-written paper. If you need one-on-one assistance, obviously because of the shutdown, I am home and I am unable to meet you at the Writing Center itself. But if you need one-on-one assistance where you and I have a conversation and maybe I can look at your screen, send me an email and I will do what is called a video conference with you using a program called Google Meets. And you and I can have a more one-on-one conversation on how to do your project. So once again, if you have any questions or concerns, make sure to let me know. This is due in 6 days and 2 hours, guys. So please make sure you get it done. Thanks so much. Have a great day.